Hello, you're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. We're out in the garden again today. It rained a lot last night. There were tornado warnings and even some tornadoes spotted in the area. I got those alerts on my phone last night in the middle of the night. But it is a lot of rain. The gardens are good and wet. They don't seem overly wet, but I wanted to share with you today some of the ways the garden's looking. It's time to add more compost. We're hoping to do that this weekend, but there's plenty of things coming up in the bed. You can see this is starting to fill in. That's that little clematis, the little lavender clematis that's growing right there. It's starting to fill out some. That's a pretty little flowering vine. There's still plenty of weeds in this bed, but you can see the black-eyed Susans are coming up. Echinacea's coming back. I've got plenty of that coming back. I love the echinacea. I harvest that and put it in my herbal apothecary cabinet. And here's some little Johnny jump ups. I've always had those in my garden since I've been in this house almost 40 years. There's irises. There's still a lot of weeds in this bed. It hasn't been weeded yet. The tulips liked all of the rain. They're looking pretty. I love that red and orangey color. I think next year I'm going to pick up some more of these so that I'll have those. I think they're really pretty. A pretty addition. There's a little pink one. I don't know how it got in there. Sometimes when you buy packs of stuff, you get an unexpected delight, an unexpected treat. I finally got this middle bed weeded, and it was no small task. I mean, it was bucket after bucket of weeds, but finally got most of them eradicated. There's a few popping up here and there since the rain. There's the little blanket flower. I love that. Got this bed ready for a vine to grow up it. There's some things coming back, and I'm going to just sit back and kind of see what's coming back this year. The elderberry, the lacy elderberry that I've got out here, it's got some kind of bloom on it. It didn't have that last year, but it does this year. I planted this mainly for the foliage because it's so pretty. Still trying to root a few pieces there. Got some plants coming up. The sage came back. I actually thought that was an annual. Happy to see that it's coming back. I see there's a few weeds that I've missed, or they just decided to grow since the rain. But that's an ongoing thing. One of the tips that I have for weeding is I try to take at least 10 minutes a day and come out and pull the weeds. I don't spray weeds here. Donald and I don't spray any kind of weed killer on our yard. We don't use any kind of poison like that. We get out here and pull our weeds. And of course, this is only 1/4 of an acre, so it's not like that's an impossible task. But it can be overwhelming. What we've done is try to make it a habit to pull weeds at least 10 minutes a day. But, you know, weather doesn't permit for you to do that sometimes. And walking over here, I wanted to show you. This is the herb bed. It's not quite established yet. I just set aside this bed last year to be an herb bed. It was a little vegetable garden plot at one time. You can see it's overgrown. We haven't got to this yet. It's not been weeded. But the comfrey's coming back. And I'm so excited. I was able to get a cutting of this from my brother-in-law last year and put it here in the perennial herb garden. This is going to be a perennial herb garden. And I love that this comfrey has decided to come back. It's non-edible. It's not an internal herb. We don't take it internally. It's actually an outside poultice that exacerbates healing. It causes bone and healing. And so I'm excited to have that in my herb bed. This is rosemary. It's struggling a little bit. It's trying to recover from the winter, and it was in a pot. And this is the lavender. And I've got these planted pretty close together in here, so I have to keep them trimmed up when they do start growing. This is old basil that I hadn't cut down yet. And then there's not much else in this bed. So there is a dandelion, which I love dandelion tea. I use the flowers, the roots, and the leaves. I have white and pink dandelions to plant this year. Not sure what garden I'll be putting those in yet, but I will be planting some more dandelions. So out of the 6 beds that we have out front, well 7 counting this naturalized area over here, which we don't do much with, it has the English ivy down here, and we have to keep it cut out of this tree. So we cut it down here last year, and we'll be cutting it out of this tree this year. These are Leland cypress trees that we planted years ago, and they are huge, and we planted them here just as a little privacy buffer. You know, being in a neighborhood right here close to the street, sometimes it's just good to have a little privacy buffer from you and every house around. So that's the Leland cypress, and Donald has to trim these up. They've gotten so big now that he has to trim them up. Let me just give you an overview. They are really, really tall. We've enjoyed these. They give a good amount of shade and break up the beaten sun here. And that's a naturalized bed, but there's 6 beds. We don't really do a lot with this one. I've got some marshmallow bush over there in the corner, and then a few rose bushes here. And then there's some things that have come up on their own that we'll have to trim back. But mainly this just stays low and is right here beside the driveway. Now we had a tree cut down here, and there's still the stump, and Donald tries to burn it out when he can. But in the city, you're limited to what you can do and when you can do it. So that thing is still here in the middle of this flower bed, right here on the other side of the driveway. So when you come up the driveway, you've got the naturalized bed here on the right with the 2 tall Lelands, and then you've got this just this little circle that used to be around a tree, but we had to take the tree down. So now it's just a little stump garden. And we try to keep the rocks down low right here in case somebody drives off of the driveway and they run over these flat stones and they're not running over, you know, damaging their car. There were a few miniature daffodils.
Dog. It sneaked into the...
Oh, you hear the neighbor's dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
David, can you say hi?
Hi.
To me. To me in the camera. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. David's here with me today. He's playing in the fairy garden. And yeah, we have these little miniature daffodils. Of course, they're about gone now, but they are really cute. I used to have daffodils all the way around this tree stump.
Yeah.
But I am not sure what happened to these daffodils. I don't know if like a mole ate them or a vole. I'm not sure, but there are no daffodil bulbs except these 2 little groupings of miniatures are still here. But that's it. There's no bulbs that come back. Not sure what's going on there. Why that those bulbs didn't come back. But that's one of the little, that's the little flower bed on that side. And of course we have the middle flower bed, and it's weeded. All except a few straggles that's popping up here and there. The weeds are pretty much gone out of this bed. And now I'm just sitting back, kind of watching what's coming up, what flowers will be coming back that belong here, the perennials that stay here every year. So that bed is, I'm not sure that this is a rock. Donald and I were talking about this, and my son found a cannonball. Of course, it wasn't this big. This is a huge. If this is a cannonball, it's a huge cannonball. But he found a small cannonball here on our property years ago when he was a teenager, and he was able to sell that. But it was there is a historical site that is near us, so we're sure that's from one of the battles that was in this area. But this rock is just so perfectly round, and the way that it's almost like it's rusting in layers. So I'm not so sure that's a rock. It could be a cannonball. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I did do a little research on it just to see, and these cannonballs this size are not common. But I was telling Donald, I don't think that that's a rock. I think it's a cannonball. But it's in the flower bed, rusting away. But that's an interesting little garden ornament that we have. David, do you have tools?
Yes. This is a screwdriver. This is a hammer.
Okay, I think that's a wrench.
Yeah, it's a wrench.
Yeah, but you were close. There's still plenty to do out here. I hope to get the seeds started today. Have a new rosemary. It looks a lot better than the one that I have over there. I think the problem that I'm having with rosemary is I'm just keeping it too dry. I have friends that have these things that are huge as bushes. They're huge. And I love rosemary. I mean, I want to make tinctures from it. I use it in my cooking. I love the smell of it. It's just been an excellent herb, and I've grown it every year. But I know this thing is a perennial, and I know that I can, if I keep trying, I can get this rosemary to grow. I'm not sure why I'm having problems growing it. Hi, sweetie. We got our little dish pan going here, and this is another clematis. I have 3 clematis. I have a dark purple, a medium purple, and the light purple that's out in the other flower bed I showed you. This clematis is supposed to be climbing up this trellis, but it never works like that. It never really, you can plan and plan, and then your garden just has a mind of its own. So here's the trellis right here, and over here is the clematis about, a foot away from it. So I don't know if I'm going to have to move that trellis over here for it to climb up, or what the solution to that is. But I'll have to figure that out. And I have this old bed right here, and I used it as a trellis. That clematis was originally supposed to climb up this bed, but it jumped over here. It didn't stay where I planted it. So here we go. We've got the garden doing its own thing. And I'm not saying that I don't like that. I don't mind it doing its own thing sometimes, because it shows a pleasant surprise that you wouldn't have any other way. These are peonies, or here in the South we call them peonies. They're coming up. I've got plenty of those sprouting. And they are a beautiful flower. I have really grown to love the peonies. Here are the little bushes that I rooted last year. They're crab apples, little crabapple trees. There's 6 of them. This is a specific crabapple. I'm not even sure of the scientific name of it, but they're grown at a hospital, and we had permission to go and harvest those every year, and they make the best jelly and the best crabapple juice. So Donald and I was able to get cuttings and make little startings of these crab apples, and they're coming back. You can see the little blooms on them. So we're excited about that. We'll check on our little cuttings that we took from the little cuttings that we took off of the elderberry out front and the camellia. Here are our little baby cuttings. You can see it rained in them last night, so they're wet. We don't have to water them today. I'm gonna drain a little bit of this water off. You don't ever want them just sit in water. You want to keep them moist, but you don't want them sitting in water. So I'm gonna drain some of that off and pull these up to the top so they're not just sitting in that water. Okay, and what next? What to tell you about next? Plenty going on in this garden. All the new stuff is coming up, whether I'm in agreement with it or not. We've got several pairs of doves that's hanging out. They're not here this morning. I wanted to show you the calla lilies. I moved them outside. These are the calla lilies in my Itching for Spring video. I planted these when it was still snow on the ground. And they're doing well. They're up. You can see how high they are up. And I will be adding those to the garden this year. I've still got the new shutters with the rain and the forecast of rain. Donald and I have not been able to paint those. Got passion flower seeds. I've yet to harvest those. Something's been eating those seeds. And I had to sit my amaryllis bulbs out here because I simply ran out of room in my house to keep everything that I have. The ranunculus are still coming up and looking good. I can't wait to see those bloom. But so far, the only bed that I have completely weeded is the middle bed. And it still, after this rain, has a few shoots of weeds that I'll have to pull up today. And then I'll have to start working on each individual flower bed to eradicate weeds, plan what we're going to put out.
Daddy, look, I got all of these things.
Oh, nice.
The fairy garden.
Oh, okay.
I'll go right to the fairy garden.
Okay, that's a good plan. I have yet to paint these handrails. I got to keep these little green little green trees arborvitae that we bought for Christmas. I'm going to try to keep those alive in these pots on each side this year. We are definitely starting to bust into growth. And this is a busy season for me when things start growing like this. I have to jump in here and try to get ahead of the weeds and plan what's going to be put out here so I can plan on the growth. Over here in the little garden close to the house, the one where the sidewalk separates it from the big garden here on the left-hand side, there is the other clematis. Now, clematis is kind of a tender vine. You've got to let it climb where it climbs, and if you try to trellis it, it breaks and it doesn't grow real easy. But it used to be a trellis here for this clematis, but I don't have one there yet, and I need to go ahead and get one there, or that thing's going to be a little periwinkle blooming. That thing will grow and it'll be hard to trellis it up later. This garden ornament is Donald's uncle's bowling ball. He loved to bowl. He was in a lot of tournaments. He's really good at it. And when he died, Donald got this bowling ball to go out here in the garden, and it's just a reminder of his good uncle that was in his life. I wanted to do more in container gardening this year. I'm excited to container garden, so I'm planning some of that. And of course, this little flower bed has not been weeded, but here is a clematis growing up it. And this is the dark purple Nellie Moser clematis. And we used to have it growing on this trellis here that needs probably to be replaced, definitely painted or replaced this year. But you can see it's jumped over here in between these rocks. So my garden just has a mind of its own. And I'm always hesitant to corral things because I admire the natural way some things come up. Of course, it doesn't make for the best, neatest, most perfect garden. So I guess I'll be working on a lot of that this year. This is a little maple tree, a Japanese maple tree. And Donald brought a cutting from a friend's house, or he dug it up and brought it here. So this little Japanese maple is a really pretty accent in this yard. Let me throw this garbage away. I'll try to pick up. Being in the city, when people go down the street, they throw things in your yard. It's been a lot of wind, so things blow in your yard. So it's always a job when you come out. You've got to pick up the debris that's a part of life in the city. You don't have that much going on when you live in the country, but when you're in the city, it's a lot more maintenance, even though it's a very smaller space. Yeah, I was talking about the container garden. I am anxious to container garden for sure. We'll go ahead and give this little decorative kale a drink of water. It didn't get any of the rain because it was up under the eave. So I'm just going to soak it. Yes, I'm going to start rounding up my containers and think about repotting my container gardens. I've got big plans for that, for some beautiful container gardens coming up. So maybe I'll share those with you as that goes on. I still want to share the seed starting video so that you can kind of get an idea about, how I start seeds and what goes on with that. Just sitting on the front step today, enjoying this cool weather and the wetness of everything. It's not too terribly muddy. We're kind of up on a hill here, so this yard really drains well. This garden, all these gardens and stuff, if I had to say, they're on the drier side more than the wet side. So we're up on this hill, and the gardens drain really, really well. Across the street, they're down the hill a little bit, and those gardens stay more moist. But up here, we dry out pretty good. Of course, this was all red clay, and I've talked to you about that before. This plot here, when we moved here, this lot had it was completely red mud. They had sown grass. We had bought this house. Somebody else built this house and had left it within a year. So we bought this house. It was, less than a year old when we bought it. And that's been almost 40 years ago. And it was just a red plot. I'll have to see if I can find the old pictures of it. It was one little sprig and just a red plot here. And you can see there was no trees in anybody's yard really, just little sticks. It's a fairly new development. But over the years, Donald and I have amended and planted, and well, we were even to the stage where we were cutting down trees. This stump here in the middle of this middle flower garden, that was a big maple, and it was planted there when we moved here. Of course, the water line is right beside of this maple, where this maple was at. So roots actually came over here. You can see the water line there, and then it goes up. Of course, we put the driveway over it, and then it goes to the house. You can see the faucet there, and that's where the water line is. So the last time we had a problem, of course, it was under the driveway. So Donald had to tunnel up under there with a tool and repair our water line. But the tree that was here, not only were the roots growing near around the water line, which it didn't cause a problem yet, but it could have in the future. But the thing got so big, it was huge, and it became a hazard, falling on cars right here at the driveway, and falling even on the house. So we did have that big, huge maple removed at the same time that we had the maple in the backyard removed. And that's a part of when you live in a house for a long time, or if you buy an older house and, you know, things overgrow and things have to be maintained. And I do miss the shade from that big, beautiful tree, and it was beautiful. And that little ash tree there on the left, that was beside the driveway where you see the wire where the stump's been removed, that was a beautiful tree. So the yard was shaded at one point, but it's changed. It's evolved over the course of the time that we've had this house, and that's just how it goes. The gardens, you know, Donald, I can remember when he took the water hose and outlined the shape, and we got out here and decided what shape we wanted to form these gardens in. And then over all these years, we've added these stones to make this natural stone border, because we love the mountains and we love rocks, and that's something we enjoy having around our garden. So, you know, it's evolved over time. It's taken a lot of time to get these gardens just to look like this, starting from scratch, doing things yourself when you can, not hiring a company or somebody to do things for you, just working it in on a very tight budget, very low budget for gardening. But it has evolved, and we are starting to really love the space. But it can be high maintenance, even though it's small. Just the care in this can be high maintenance. But we love our little gardens out here in front, and it's exciting to plant them and to keep them up every year. It's a joy to have a little plot, even if you have a balcony or a patio or a deck, just a little area. It's exciting to be able to grow things, you know, beautiful flowers or vegetables. Don't think that you have too small of a space to grow what you want to grow. There are ways and means to find containers, and even if you have to recycle them, to grow beautiful, beautiful gardens. The jasmine's still blooming here. It's falling off. It's kind of fragile flowers. I don't know if it's because of the so much rain that we've had, or if that's just the nature of that flower. But I'm finding a lot of blooms on the ground. I think it's just a fragile flower, more fragile than I realized. Well, I think I've shared with you about all I have to share with you in the front garden today. Thank you for joining me, and like always, until next time.